Hi, I'm Sarah Bunwell, the editor of InsuranceInvestor.com and FundOperator.com. I'm here with Martine Valcin, Global Manager, Corporate Governance, ESG Advisory, Knowledge and Learning at the IFC. Martine is speaking at our ESG Investment Leader Conference, North America in April. And ahead of that, we just wanted to catch up with her to get a little bit of a flavor of what she's going to talk about. Hi, Martine, thanks for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Great. So we're obviously having this ESG conference, and as I said, I wanted to get a sense of what you're going to be talking about. So my first question is, how important is ESG benchmarking, and what do you see as some of the advantages for investors that do it?
I think ESG benchmarking is very important because it allows comparison within a company, across peers, and across regions and sectors. Private debt and equity investors such as IFC find such approaches useful when making first-time or repeat investments in emerging markets. So we need to assess improvements in client performance that translate into development impacts and on the ground. So for us, it really helps us target advisory intervention to help clients meeting ESG objectives. So very important, the issue of ESG benchmarking.
That makes perfect sense to me. What do you see as some of the common mistakes or barriers that perhaps prevent investors from using ESG data effectively?
Yeah, I think there are a number of barriers. First, issuers continue to face a profusion of ESG reporting standards and taxonomies. Call it the ESG alphabet soup, right? This makes reporting challenging. Further, the lack of harmonization of reporting standards, extra financial indicators, and taxonomies can lead to fragmented policies that can undercut market growth. As a result, investors face challenges when developing comprehensive and consistent investment analysis in the absence of comparable information. Second, and probably the most significant constraint, especially in emerging markets where IFC invests, is the lack of robust and material ESG disclosures. Because of public securities investment evaluation relies on assessment of publicly disclosed information, missing or incomplete ESG information about public debt and equity issuers prevents investors from making ESG integrated investment. Third, investors frequently rely on ESG data and ratings provided by third-party data providers to assess a company's ESG performance. ESG data providers' ratings have been criticized for using different definitions of materiality, varying indicators, weights, and scoring methodologies to calculate ESG ratings. Data providers have also been criticized for using different methods to source raw data and calculate proxies to estimate missing data. While providers may agree on the performance of some firms, they may also substantially disagree on others. This makes a comparison of ESG data provider scores very difficult and challenging. And finally, and not unsurprisingly, ESG data coverage is available mostly for developed markets. Investment universe coverage is not consistent across markets and providers. So there are also sector and geographic biases in data collection. And the reasons for this are greater disclosure and availability of information, as well as better quality issuer reported ESG information for developed markets. ESG data providers use global equity indices to determine coverage, which can result in a risk of underrepresentation of emerging market companies and bond-only issuers. So in a nutshell, these are some of the barriers that we see in respect of being able to integrate ESG in investment decisions.
So quite a few barriers there, and I think all important ones. How do we go about overcoming some of these barriers? What are some of the critical steps that CIOs can and should take to improve their ESG data strategies?
That's a very good question, Sarah. I believe these barriers can be tackled at many levels. Over the years, we have seen a number of initiatives by regulators to improve corporate disclosure requirements. For example, in India, the National Securities Regulators has announced disclosure requirements for India's largest 1,000 public companies starting this year. IFC's own sustainable finance and banking network has seen growing interest by capital market regulators in emerging markets to strengthen the ESG performance and green finance activities of capital market participants, especially in recent years where regulators have helped catalyze green bond markets and develop national green taxonomies. Exchanges are also developing solutions for ESG reporting tools and infrastructure for capital markets. IFC is joining forces with the United Nations Sustainable Stock Exchange Initiative to strengthen ESG disclosure and reporting requirements for companies in emerging markets through the use of IFC Disclosure and Transparency Toolkit, which is a resource on reporting for companies, investors, regulators, exchanges, and standard setters. Investors themselves are partnering with other investors, data providers, and technology firms to drive the development of ESG data. These partnerships target improving ESG standards and building capacity around responsible investment. For example, the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank and Amundi have announced plans with Aberdeen Standard Investments to establish the climate and sustainability data sets for companies in emerging markets to inform investment strategies. IFC, for instance, has engaged data provider Arabesque to collect ESG information that is disclosed by emerging market bond issuers. IFC's ESG performance indicators for capital markets are the disclosure framework for this information. The information will be made available as a global public good for the investment community and to advance investments in emerging markets.
Great, thank you. Last one from me. As you've alluded to, the ESG landscape is evolving quite rapidly. So how can investors ensure that they're on top of all these new developments and that their data strategies are sophisticated enough to kind of compare these new and innovative solutions?
Yeah, we are seeing a lot of innovation across markets with investors exploring different analytical strategies to process available data to facilitate decisions. For example, investors are exploring alternative data sources to complement financial information with non-financial metrics, such as through the use of remote sensing and aerial imagery from satellite, high-resolution land cover information, data from Internet of Things, information from social media feeds, and input from open data platforms. So there's really a thirst of information, and people are getting very creative in sourcing that information. In addition, the boom in ESG investing, coupled with efforts to address challenges in ESG data and with advances in AI technologies, this has the potential to help investors analyze ESG data to make investing decisions faster and more efficiently. Most compellingly, research shows that unstructured ESG data, such as news articles, project investment information, and ESG disclosures, be it annual, integrated, and sustainability report, as well as bond prospectuses, are underused in analysis of corporate ESG performance. Therefore, the use of AI applications that are enhanced by a new generation of machine learning algorithms and cloud computing has led to innovations in the analysis of unstructured text and on a massive scale through the use of natural language processing techniques.
Lovely, thank you. I think this has been really interesting, and I cannot wait to hear more from you at the conference later this year.
Very much looking forward to participating in the conference, and thank you again for the invitation.